just before we took that break, I did say that this morning we'll be taking a look at that court order yesterday asking ASUU to end its 7-month-old strike. Now, we'll be taking a look at what the law says here and not necessarily about what ASUU is demanding for. Thank God, who I have in the studio this morning is a legal practitioner, so he would tell us, I'm sure also let us know what it was that the federal government asked the courts to interpret and what the court did. Because a few things I've read and they're saying, why did the court say that? And the little I know is that it is what you ask for before the court that you will get. So Barrister Bosun Osifowora is here this morning. He'll help us make more meaning into this particular situation. He's a lawyer and a social commentator. Good morning, Bosun Osifowora, for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Good morning.
Now, let's just set this straight. Let's quickly... so it is what you ask the court that the court would give to you, isn't it?
The court is not a Father Christmas.
So I think there's a need to establish that fact, that the federal government approached the court, the National Industrial Court, asking the court to ask ASUU to end the industrial action. So please explain to us in layman terms how best we all can understand this. What was it that the federal government wanted from the court?
No, it's as lay and as bare as it is. They wanted them to go back to work.
Okay.
And then they approached the court, and the court said, go back to work.
All
right.
They've
met a few of your stuff, and ASUU, you said we're not looking at what ASUU is saying. There's no way you don't look at
No, definitely. We will still come back to look at what ASUU is saying. But then, the ruling yesterday, so it was what the federal government brought before the court, that the court interpreted. And then the court said, okay, go back to work, because the federal government is saying you're breaching part of the agreement as a worker. So you need to go back to work. But the court didn't say negotiations should stop. Did the court say that?
No, the court didn't say that. But you see, one of the things we have to look at is this. Before I came here, I was at a sister station, and the ASUU chairman of Unilag, I heard him talking about FG procuring a Jankara judgment, and I felt that was below him. That is not a language that should be condoned. Now, the court is the court. The court is the final arbiter, because, we can't take up arms against one another or against each other. The FG can't kill ASUU. ASUU cannot kill everybody. Now, so that's why the FG took the noble position going to law. And like you know, the industrial court is set up specifically for matters,
such as
labor-related matters, industrial matters, like that, which the whole ASUU and federal government imbroglio falls under. And then the court has looked at it, at the case of the federal government. Basically what the federal government wants is, there's been this hue and cry from everywhere, and it's just common sense. Before everybody's kids will become a menace to the society, and they say that the idle hand becomes the devil's workshop, and then these kids, they have the energy, they're not meaningfully engaged, then, but you see, the thing is, if we look at it from that angle, the sentimental angle, you just say, oh yeah, ASUU, go back, and then at least, but at the same time, this is something that's been on for a long time.
Right.
I think it took President Yar'Adua to make them sign all the things to make FG acquiesce in what ASUU wants.
Right.
They have a retinue, a plethora of demands requests and everything, and some are neither here nor there, but majority has to do with their working conditions and
funding of the universities,
funding and all these things, remuneration and all these things which are basic anyway. Right. And unfortunately, Yar'Adua died. Then successive governments have not really been able to implement. They have, like ASUU has proceeded, that what they have done is to look for the one that favors them.
Okay.
And, abdicated the ones that, actually will put ASUU in a better working condition. So that's the crux of what is happening.
Okay.
Now, and we've seen a whole lot of grandstanding from both parties. Along the way, FG try to, threaten and say, if you don't work, you don't get paid and all that. And I saw two things that's been narrowed down to is for the period that there was strike, FG is saying they don't want to pay.
Because they were not working.
ASUU is saying that the strike was not occasioned by them. That in fact, I heard the man saying that ASUU is not on strike. That the strike is not as a result of ASUU. The strike is as a result of the fact that FG didn't meet the demands. So like it's not as if they are strike hungry. Yeah, no, he's trying to
justify
absolve themselves
why they are not working.
Exactly. Now, and you see all these things, I feel that if both parties are sincere, there's always a common ground. The First and Second World War were solved at table. And then I saw the speaker's effort yesterday, and I think he said the whole thing is still going on. But back to the court. Now, one of the things I need to put clear out there is that the law, the court is the final arbiter. And the court is there to settle disputes. And in this regard, there's nothing like Jankara judgment. Where the courts are now and where our judicial system is, I think that statement belittles the court, and it even berates the court, and it's not supposed to be.
Okay.
A judgment is a judgment.
Sorry to cut you short, so that you'll just wrap up issues about the court in your submission here. Also, in an interview that I also saw yesterday by the ASUU chair himself, Oshodeke, he did say that he doesn't believe that the court is the resort for the common man anymore by this judgment, because according to him, it is a disfavor to ASUU and their demands. So, I mean, so you were saying here that,
I got your point. It's
right,
still in
so
line,
it's still in line with what you were talking about.
I have a problem with when people go sentimental. The court has given a ruling. Instead of you going on air and saying all kinds of things which should not be said, you have a right of appeal.
They've said they will
I heard
appeal.
them talking about they want to appeal. Now, but you see, the fact is, whilst that is on, I think you should just be quiet. Just say, you brief your lawyers, they are working on the appeal, and that's it. Now, as it stands, appeal is not a bar. It's not, there's stay of execution. That has to be filed along, like that. But that, as we are, what obtains is the fact that there's a judgment that has asked ASUU to return to school and, go back to the classrooms and lecture. Now, but the thing is this, it's a case of winning the war and not, winning the fight. How do you tell a disgruntled person no, let me use better words now. I'm dissatisfied with something, and you ask me to go, and somebody just told me this morning that if they were doctors, would you tell a doctor who is angry, just go back and treat that person and perform the operation? You will cause problem. Now, so that's the thing. So it's the law is there. The law is the law. There's nothing you could do against the law.
We'll come back to ask whether or not, if ASUU doesn't go back to does not follow the law here, doesn't follow the rulings here, what's going to happen. But let me take a few messages. Don Sam, long one here. If you'll recall my last submission on this ASUU strike, I said ASUU are equally fighting for students' well-being, and that is why NANS is standing by ASUU on this. On the other hand, court can instruct ASUU to resume to work, but sees no reason to instruct FG to always fulfill every agreement between them and other arms of government. Abi, this is ridiculous. Who even they respect court orders again for this country, safe? I remembered when court ordered Ashore be released, then in one of his court hearings, DSS disobeyed the order right inside the courts therein and arrested him again right inside the court, and nothing happened thereafter. Okay. Don Sam, thank you for your message. Ambassador Shova, you would respond to that in a bit. Let me go to Abani Wanda from Ikorodu. Nobody's above the law. If we encourage people to disobey court order while leading to lawlessness, if government has agreed on 75% of ASUU's demand, then let them move on. However, if government can now allow NUPENG to go on strike for 2 weeks, then why should ASUU be on strike for 7 months? Haba, Kilode now. Is it because education do not generate revenue? Please, let's do more of Jojo and not war. Thank you, Abani Wanda from Ikorodu, for all your contributions this morning. So, Bosun Osifowora, let's go to Don Sam's message. Nobody obeys court orders anymore. And I do understand there should be contempt of court. So,
he's speaking from point of ignorance.
Okay.
Nobody obeys court orders. When there's an order against him, he should not obey it. Then he will know. He will know the reality.
So what I mean,
you know?
if ASUU decides here, and I know that when you want to appeal.
Sorry, quick one. The one he said about Shore.
Yes.
Look at what he said. He said the court released him.
And then DSS disobeyed the court ruling and they picked him again.
They rearrested him.
Okay, it was another arrest entirely.
He was a different
It was rearrested.
Entirely.
Okay, so if ASUU decides not to go back to the classroom, because they've also said that they don't have to go back to the classrooms immediately. Even if they were to obey the order, they don't have to go back immediately. But the timeline at which they can also appeal, I'm not sure they can appeal tomorrow. Is it that fast?
No, before you, once you get the CTC of the judgment, because that has to form part of your appeal.
Okay.
Because you can't appeal.
Please, what's CTC?
Certified true copy, sorry.
Okay.
Certified true copy of the ruling or the judgment.
Okay.
You have to get that from the court.
Right.
All right.
How long does that take, give or take?
It depends on the court.
It's an industrial court.
It depends on the court. It shouldn't take long. Once there's a ruling, you know, they read from the system, then they print it, do all the necessaries, then you make your application, and then you have to still go look at all the issues that you have to raise, then except they have preempted how the judgment will go. But even at that, you still have to make reference to a few things. Then you file your appeal. Now, but appeal is not a bar to the existing judgment. You have to file for stay of execution of this judgment whilst you are on appeal.
Right.
Now,
so who files for the stay of execution, the ASUU or the federal government?
No, the judgment is in favor of federal government.
Definitely.
The federal government wants ASUU to go back to the classrooms. And then ASUU is not satisfied with the ruling of the court. And then, so they are right now, they feel they've been cheated out of the whole process. And like you said earlier, I don't think this is a bar to continued negotiation.
Right.
But you see, let me hold forth for ASUU on one hand. They've been with successive governments. They've seen this thing. That's why I'm saying that you can win. Yeah,
trust is the issue.
You know, you can win the war. You say, okay, we won, we defeated them. But beyond that, how do you get the best out of these people? Then what ASUU is fighting for is not as if it's 100% for their pocket. And then if we look at 7 months in the life of a human being, that's, I mean, the academic session is about 9 months. So definitely a whole year is gone in the life of these kids. And then that's now, but not even kids. Now there are people doing, you know, I was looking at it. I was looking at it from the undergraduate level, but there are people doing masters. There are people doing the PhDs and, you know, other things who are not kids.
Right.
And they are also affected. And you see, this thing, government is not looking at this thing from the economic standpoint.
Okay.
Because it has its own downside too. And somebody raised something very, very minute, but it's not out of place. Somebody was like, all those people selling food.
I've been doing photocopy.
You know, you just
know all those
like,
small things.
Those people too, because they are an integral part of the academic community.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what will they eat? What will they do? And all those things. So I mean, we should.
It's not just about.
But you see, at this level, I feel whatever, maybe it's worth the wait. Whatever they come up with, let there be an end to this thing so that the next government won't have to face this thing. Because, and I think that's what ASUU is really pushing, that if we do the patch thing, you know, and let it go, this next government will come and still face the same thing. And that's it. So the earlier they found a lasting solution to this, the better it is for them.
Okay.
So.
Let's take Lanre Omolayo's message from Abuja. He says, I urge ASUU to obey the court order to go back to classrooms by suspending the strike to enable all parties come to a compromise in the interest of students and Nigeria as a nation. NANS should engage the presidential candidates by way of debate in 2023 general elections on what to do if voted into power to put an end to this incessant strikes by the nation institutions of higher learning rather than being partisan in the current political dispensation. Lanre Omolayo from Abuja, thank you for your message this morning. I'm coming. Let me quickly take this. Testimony, Sam. The major problem most of our leaders have today in Nigeria is they don't value education. If Mr. President valued education, he would have met their demands at least 80%. It's not possible to tell ASUU to end the strike just like that. What do you want my dad to meet? What do you want my dad to meet my demand? I don't understand what that is. Okay. Adeiza from Abuja, please, ASUU should call off and pity the final year students. My brother have been in the university since 2016 for a 5-year course. His age is going up and not coming down. So when you look at it from such stands, you have no choice but to be moved by pity. So ASUU is not backing down. The federal government is not backing down. But the federal government is saying we're not closed. I mean, we haven't closed negotiations.
There was something you raised earlier.
Okay,
that,
one of the
I
messages.
think the first message was that engage the presidential aspirant.
In a debate.
I remember when President Barr
No.
when President Barr was coming in, I remember him saying, I think there was some amount of money, some billions that the Good Luck administration wasted on something that if he was the one, he would put it on ASUU and all that. You know, see, one of the things I've seen is at the level of campaign, anybody will tell you whatever you want to hear.
Promises.
Sometimes, too, they actually speak from where they are.
Maybe an uninformed perspective.
No. You see, there's this saying that you can't paint the inside of the house from outside. You have to be there. When you get into the kitchen, then you feel the heat.
Right.
You know, so it's like that. Sometimes these things look like, we could do it. When APC came with change, they sincerely wanted to change things. But when they got there, they realized that some things are not changeable. Some things are rock-like, and it takes more than wishes to just, you know, you can't wish some of those things away. So engaging the aspirants. What with that? If I'm an aspirant, I'll tell you that I don't believe in ASUU, or I will solve ASUU's problem. I'll tell you I'll solve it. Don't worry. You just bring me in. I'll be the best thing after ice cream. And then you get there, you don't realize that this one is Orogbo. It's not even tasting near ice cream, you know.
Okay. Okay, let me quickly take this message and then Nolim Chike from Enugu says, there's nothing wrong with court ordering ASUU to end the strike. The same ASUU can still ask the court for stay of execution. Does this solve the problem at hand? Government should learn how to solve a problem once and for all. All right, Nolim Chike, thank you. Barrister Osifowora already also attributed to that. But I was going to ask you, now the federal government is saying, well, by this judgment, they would also now start asking the vice chancellors to go ahead and open universities and not necessarily call on ASUU anymore to call off the strike. So will this be another tactic that might fail before it even starts?
I don't know how far this will succeed. As for the court judgment is sound and is fine. And there's nothing you can do against judgment like this except you appeal, or else you'll be in contempt of court. Right, that is the position of the law. But you see, how well this will pan out with these people. I mean, we just alluded to a case of somebody who was set free by the court and was rearrested. So it's a case of ASUU going, supposed to go back. We will go back, you know, and then we will. You know, it reminds me of a joke by a comedian that a teacher bid a student and says, sit down, you know, and the student was grandstanding. Eventually, when they beat him to a pulp, you know, he sat down. He now told the teacher that I'm sitting down, but in my mind, I'm standing up. So that's basically
that's
what
how
ASUU
it is.
is doing.
But are there really lessons to be learned in this particular situation? Imagine this is 2022. This agreement was entered into in 2009 by an administration that is done and dusted with. Does this say anything about the need for government to also ensure that they scrutinize agreements properly before they sign? Because again, sometimes you assume that you're able to meet certain demands, but because of other exigencies or because of other reasons that you might want to give, then you're not able to follow through. So are there lessons here to be learned?
You want me to be sincere? If we want to be sincere, there's a bit of lack of tact on the part of the federal government in handling this thing. They haven't shown much dexterity, you know, skilled in handling this thing. And then it boils down to, you know, putting people who are not particularly sound. I mean, no disrespect to the people who were there, but who are not abreast of, you know, the development in this area. You found that, you know, Ngige was saying something on one and Adamu came with his own proposal, you know. So there was some cacophony
in their own
in the whole, you know, position. So there wasn't even a common front from. So they would say, federal government, this one is speaking for federal government, this one is speaking, you know, like that. And so I feel there should be some form of unison. Because when you go to war against someone, you must tidy your own end. Now, so I think federal government hasn't been fantastic in handling this thing. Then also, another thing you have to look at is the economic angle. Government exists in continuum. You can't say you don't know what the last administration did. But at the same time, the realities of the economy back then may not be what it is now. Now, so what I think agreements, well, let me toe your line, should be construed in such a way that, say, in future, things may go south. This is how we will work it out. Unlike just, you know, signing something and say, this is edged in stone. Then tomorrow, we can't assess the stone again. We can't assess the thing again. So I think going forward with this should be the last ASUU strike. If the government and the rulers are serious, I call them rulers, you know, with all sense of caution, that they should find some, if there's another ASUU strike after this, then those who are ruling us are not really serious and they're not sincere. Because this should be the final point where this will be nipped in the bud and then this thing settled once and for all. And
before we go this morning, there are also some states, universities are beginning to pull out of this issue. Is this also able to break the ranks of ASUU in any way?
No, it's not enough to break their ranks. But it may deal some blows to them. But you see, the states that are pulling out, they have their reasons for pulling out. And they have looked at the laws, you know, and how it relates to ASUU, and particularly state and federal universities. And they realize that the federal universities are more favored in certain directions. That's why they looked at it, okay, fine. There's no point joining the bandwagon when I receive the lower, you know, the rung of this, you know, the lower end of the stick. So let me put my acts together. Let me now put my house in order. Then let me see what's best for me. And you see, a lot of people are beginning to, state universities were looked at in a funny way. But now people are beginning to look at it that if this thing
looks like is,
I think this is the way to go now. So not even private now. So everybody is towing that line. And I mean, you can see, I mean, Lagos State, LASU, fantastic place. And I think...
Yeah, and alumni, you would say that.
No. under the leadership of the present SA on education, you know, is doing a fantastic job. And everything is going, everybody's happy. It's a fantastic place. So not because I finished from there, but the fact that the people handling them are actually doing a great job.
At least you're proud about that.
Very proud.
Okay, all right.